So, welcome to this PowerPoint presentation on key 6 in chapter 3, which is prepositions. So prepositions is a big word, right? You've got what, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever, how many, lot of letters here. Preposition, several syllables. It's a long word. Ironically, prepositions are very short words usually, are they not? You've got in, on, under, 2 syllables, next to, 2 words, behind, in front of, 3, and between. But a lot of prepositions are words like in, at, on, to, for, up, down. They're just tiny little words. How can tiny little words cause such a problem? Well, they do. They really, really do. So this chapter is on prepositions. And good luck, everybody. It's a tough topic. Even if you never teach a lesson called prepositions, you will have students who are going to make mistakes with prepositions, whether you're teaching science and have ESL students there, or you're teaching composition at a very advanced level. Your students are going to make errors with prepositions, and you need to be able to recognize that that's a preposition error, and then have a plan for what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So let's take a look at prepositions. So I'm going to start with the textbook, and this is the table of contents. You can see key 6 in chapter 3, which is prepositions. It starts on page 189 in your textbook. I'm going to talk about, I'm assuming you've read this already. I'm going to highlight 5 pages. Now I'm not trying to give you any impression that these are the only 5 pages that are important, but I'm going to not go through this page by page by page because I assume that you've read this already, right? Or if you haven't read this already, you should stop this video right now, and you should at least glance at the chapters, peruse the pages really quickly, skim and scan, and find out what's what about prepositions, and find out information that you don't know so much about that you need to focus on, right? So page 189, and I'm going to look at pages 191, 192, 196, 200, and 205. Let's start with page 191. You may wish to follow along with me in the textbook, and in fact, that's what I would suggest that you do. So right now, on page 191, what I'd like to point out is that prepositions don't appear by themselves. The word is preposition. Pre means it comes in front of something else, which means it has to have a something else. So when you say a preposition such as at, or in, or near, or on, as you see in the first examples there, they're not going to be there all by themselves. It's going to be at the bank, in my car, near the store, on Main Street. It's going to be a preposition, a something before the other word. Now that position word, it's called position. It sounds like it's always place. It's not always place. It can be a place such as at the bank. It can also be time, like at 2 o'clock, right? What comes after it is going to be a noun or a pronoun, but it can be a place, it can be a time, it can be a direction. Like I'm driving home right now from the post office, right? I'm not going to the post office, I'm coming from the post office. So it can be direction as well. But the point is, a preposition is going to be part of a preposition plus a noun, and that chunk is called a prepositional phrase. You may remember that a phrase is a group of words that has a noun in it, or a verb in it, or an adjective, but it doesn't have a subject and a verb. Once you have a subject and a verb, such as at the bank, I am at the bank, now you have a clause because you have I am plus some other stuff. But at the bank, to the post office, these are prepositional phrases, all right? Now, 3 examples in the middle of the page. It can be a preposition plus a noun, such as on Tuesday. There can be an article in the middle, such as in the middle. And there can also be an adjective between the article and the noun, such as at a location or at a secret location. The prepositional phrase can occur in the beginning of the sentence, in the middle of the sentence, or at the end of the sentence. And one thing is, when you have a prepositional phrase of place and time, not always, but usually we prefer place before time. And I always teach this as alphabetical order, PT. We don't say TP. P comes before T in the alphabet, so we like to put place before time. That's a rule that I made up. That has no connection whatsoever to the reality of what's happening, but it helps students remember PT, place and time. Look at the gray box. In northern China, comma, the winters can be very harsh. So when you find a comma near the beginning of a sentence, it often indicates that this chunk of words that's before the comma is extra. It's not the subject and the verb. In English, we really like the subject and verb to come first. When it doesn't come first, you'll find a comma. And that is your clue that a comma is not just, oh, I'm out of breath, I need to put a comma there to indicate a pause. Commas are not there to tell you when to put a pause. When you're out of breath, you know when to put a pause. Commas are there for a grammatical reason. Commas indicate something grammatical, right? So in this case, blah, blah, comma, after the comma, that's when the subject verb is coming. So in this case, in northern China, the winters can be very harsh. The subject is the winters and the verb is can be. So your subject verb is not coming first. That's what those commas indicate. All right, let's look at page 192 next. So on page 192, you will see starting on page 192, you will see a long list of 70 common prepositions. English doesn't have thousands of prepositions. There are about 150 more or less. We just don't use all of those. You'll see some words that are just so strange. Like if you Google it, you'll find one of the first ones alphabetically is the word abaft, A-B-A-F-T. Yes, that's a real word, probably useful for Scrabble or for playing Wordle, I don't know. But it's not a word that you ever want to teach anybody. You look it up to see what it means. But the point is, yes, you can get a longer list, but there aren't thousands. Prepositions are it's what we call a closed class. We don't add new prepositions in English. We add new nouns, we add new verbs, we add new adjectives. Those are open categories, open parts of speech. But prepositions are a closed part of speech. We don't get new ones. Nope. We don't add them. We don't add new prepositions. There's no such thing as a new, cool, groovy, hip preposition. They may take one we already have and use it differently, but they don't invent a brand new preposition. So there's a list of 70 there. I'm not going to read all of them. I only have the first chunk of these here, the first 13. But what you should know is that there are one-word prepositions such as about. There are two-word prepositions such as due to the rain, we canceled the game. And there are three-word prepositions. For example, in lieu of, L-I-E-U, in lieu of flowers, please donate money to the American Cancer Society. We often see that phrase in lieu of in an obituary column in a newspaper. Now, what I just did is very important because anytime you teach a vocabulary item, if it's not very common, such as in lieu of, which means in place of, which means instead of, by the way, stead and place and lieu in French, all mean place. It's the same exact word. We just have three ways of saying it in English. So instead of would be a two-word preposition. Instead is one word. And then in place of would be a three-word preposition. And in lieu of would be a three-word preposition. What I was saying is anytime you teach a vocabulary item, such as a preposition or a new verb or new noun, and it's not very common, you should try to ask yourself, I wonder if this word tends to be used in one location primarily, such as the obituary column. And if so, tell your students that if you're teaching them that item, all right? But starting on page 192, you'll see a long list. Right now, you might want to stop the video and look at that list, and you'll see one-word prepositions, two-word prepositions, and three-word prepositions. You need to become familiar with those, and you need to introduce this concept to your students as well. Now, page 196, you see that yellow box? Teachers learn this pyramid. Hint, hint, hint. You might see this question on a test, not because it's a very great test item, which it is, but because it's something you really want to teach your students. Whenever I teach adult ed and I teach the very first class, I make a point of introducing the right-hand side of this pyramid on day one, night one, because usually adult ed classes, in my experience, are at night. People who go to adult ed classes, they've been working all day, they have families, they're tired. They come to your class, you want to wow them on night one? Teach this pyramid, at, on, and in. We use at for a smaller piece of time, clock time. Clock time uses at. We use on for something in the middle. What's middle? What's medium? Just go ahead and tell them it's days and dates. That's what it is. At for clock time, on for days and dates, and in for everything else, everything bigger than a day, which would be a month, a season, a semester, a year, a decade, doesn't matter what it is. It's my whole life, it's in my whole life, not at my life and not on my life in this context. So it's going to be, yeah, in his lifetime, in his life, he lived in 10 houses, something like that. All right. But at, on, and in. Teach this pyramid, at smaller, on a little bigger, and in for the biggest one, right? And in fact, when I write this on the whiteboard, I would write at the size it is here. I would write on twice as big as it is here. And I would write in gigantic font to emphasize to them for the visual learners. And everybody's a visual learner. Okay, I'm not trying to exclude anybody, but adults like to see stuff. They want to see things, right? So I would teach this pyramid for sure. And I would teach the time ones. Why would I teach time first? Because the place ones are not nearly as neat as the time ones. They're not as, the rules are not as neat, as clean as the time ones. The time ones follow a very definite pattern. That's why I would do those first. All right, my next page. Oh, that was the end. So page 196. Now, referring to page 190 in your textbook, around there, you'll see a list of reasons why prepositions are so difficult. They don't translate well. One language may have no word for that concept. So in Spanish, for example, you don't say I'm going to the bank on Monday. You just say I'm going to the bank. You actually say the Monday. You put the. They don't use a preposition there. So what would an English speaker mistake be for when I'm learning Spanish? I would try to say voy al banco en el lunes or en lunes. Well, en lunes is not in. No, that's not Spanish. It never was. So some languages require a preposition for certain things and others don't. Number three, sometimes, well, what I just said, sometimes you have to have a preposition and sometimes you don't. It just works out that way. Number four, and maybe they just aren't used the same way. So Japanese, when I was learning Japanese, I was shocked. They don't have prepositions. They don't have prepositions in Japanese. They have postpositions. So to say I live in Tokyo, in Japanese, you don't say I live in Tokyo. Well, first of all, the verb has to go last in Japanese. So to say I live in Tokyo, you're going to say watashi wa Tokyo ni sunderu, sundemasu. I am living in Tokyo. I, Tokyo, in, am living. What? Yeah, they're called postpositions. In fact, when I was learning Japanese, the teacher came into class, I remember, and she said in Japanese, today we're going to learn postpositions. And I thought, and she wrote on the board the symbol, and it was the symbol for after noun. That's how you say a postposition, a preposition. And I said, what? And I told, wow, that's so cool. And I remember I told the teacher in English, because I didn't speak Japanese very well, I said, wow, that's so cool how you guys in Japanese, you call it like it is. You don't call it a preposition, you call it a postposition. That's so cool. And she said, oh, you do the same thing in English. And I said, what? No, we don't. She said, yes, you do. No, I teach English. No, we don't. And she said, yes, Keith, it's preposition. And I have to tell you, I had been teaching at that point probably 20 years. No, yeah, about 20 years maybe. I had never noticed that it was preposition. Why? Because in English, we always abbreviate prep. We say preposition. I hear prep. I never noticed it was preposition. I thought prep. In fact, we abbreviate it PREP. Sometimes in an exercise, you write N for noun, V for verb, ADJ for adjective, ADV for adverb, and we write prep for preposition, right? Oh my gosh, this Japanese woman knew my language better than I did. Good for her. So that's how I learned about postpositions and prepositions. Number five, a lot of times they're idiomatic. And number six, they're polysemous. You may remember polysemous just means it has multiple meanings, right? So when you say the cat is on the table, that's on the table. But when I say, oh, don't worry about lunch, lunch is on me. It's not really on me, right? So that's a different kind of meaning for on. It's idiomatic, actually. All right. Now, let's take a look at this with add, on, and in with time. You may remember that pyramid, right? So how would you fill in these 6 items here really quickly here? So Monday, I would say on Monday, at noon, in May, in 1999, on my birthday, and in spring. How did you know to say on my birthday? Well, I've heard that before. Yeah, maybe you have, but how did you know? Little kids who come to kindergarten at 5 years old can do what I just did with add, on, and in. You try to do what I did right now. You ask your ESL students to fill that in those 6 blanks with add, on, or in, and you watch them struggle. I don't know what to do. This is really hard, but you know the answer already, don't you? So here's what happens. Imagine the pyramid, which we just saw, and you should know that pyramid and be able to write that pyramid, draw the pyramid, and give that answer on an exam, right? But you certainly should be able to do this at a whiteboard in front of your students. And you will do this many times. And every time in the future, you draw that pyramid and you watch 20 people in your class, you watch 40 eyes light up with, oh my gosh, there's a rule, there's a pattern to this. This teacher, Keith Foltz, or whatever your name is brilliant. And you can thank me, okay? So at for the most specific, which is clock time, 8:37. And it doesn't matter whether it's a number or a word, like at noon, it's clock time. On for days and dates, on Monday, on January 3rd, 2009, on my birthday, on this day in history, and in for everything else. And the examples are in this week, in May, in spring, in 2010, in the 1980s, or in the 80s, and in the 19th century, or in my life, all right? Now, the ones we just saw, those were prepositions. And these are also going to be prepositions. But look at what we got here. Look at what we have in these sentences. I'll just read the first, let's say the first three. Students were annoyed, blank the noises. Number two, this is confusing, blank me. And number three, I'm not satisfied, blank this repair. Well, first, I will tell you in the blank, those are all prepositions that go there. But look at the words that are in bold here. Annoyed, confusing, satisfied, good, tired, proud, harmful. So what kind of words are these bold words here? These bold words are actually are actually adjectives. I am annoyed. This is confusing. This is good. I'm proud of you. I'm proud. Oh, that's harmful. Those are adjectives. Let's see. An annoyed person, a confusing explanation, a satisfied customer, a good hamburger, a tired person, a proud parent, a harmful ingredient. So those are adjectives. And it turns out sometimes, well, how would you fill in numbers 1, 2, and 3? Number one, students were annoyed, I would say by the noises or at the noises or maybe with. But I have three possible that I can think of, but you can't put 10 there. Why can't you say TO2? Number two, this is confusing to me. Why can't, number one, why can't I say students were annoyed to the noises? Why can't I do that? Well, it turns out that there are some prepositions that don't depend on what comes after it, such as the noises or me or this repair. The word after the preposition doesn't matter, which is unusual. Because if we go back one, let's go back one. Here, what mattered was the word after the preposition. For example, it happened blank Monday. It happened on Monday. Doesn't matter whether we have what comes before it, doesn't matter. It happened on Monday. All right. If I change it to noon, it happened on noon. No. If it happened on Monday, it happened at noon. It happened in May. It happened in 1999. So see, it happened doesn't matter. The accident took place on Monday. That part doesn't matter. What matters is what comes after it, which makes sense because that's how a prepositional phrase, the at, on, in, plus the noun, that you think of it as one unit, like you can kind of draw a box around it and close it off, right? So it's logical that Monday, noon, May, my birthday, 1999, spring, it's logical that that word would matter. But sometimes that's not what happens. Here, the noises, me, this repair, don't matter at all. The only thing that matters is what comes before. So in your textbook, I hope you've read this already, there are adjective plus preposition combinations. You really, really need to stop this video right now and go back and look in the textbook if you don't know what I'm talking about. Find the page that has adjective plus preposition combinations. Annoyed by, confusing to, satisfied with, good. She's really good in math. I would say she's good at math, but in or at, both are okay. Look at number 5. I'm tired playing tennis all day. I'm tired from playing tennis all day. I'm tired of playing tennis all day. But the from and of have different meanings because I'm tired from playing tennis all day means that's why I'm tired. But I'm saying if I'm tired of playing tennis all day, it means I'm bored and don't want to do it all anymore. Look at number 6. I'm tired blank eating spaghetti every night. Yeah, from works only if your mouth is tired, which is illogical, right? I'm tired of eating spaghetti every night is a complaint. Tired from explains why you're tired. Tired of is a complaint. You're bored with it. No more, please. Number 7, we're so proud of you. Excuse me, proud of a person. And then number 8, WD-40 can be harmful to your skin. All right, so the point here is, excuse me, the point here is that the adjective matters. The word before sometimes matters. This will mostly happen for you as a teacher when you're working with more advanced students who make a mistake with a preposition in their writing and you circle it and you don't know, well, they don't know why it's wrong and you can't explain it. Instead of looking at what comes after it, such as noises, me, or this repair, look at what comes before it, such as annoyed, confusing, or satisfied. What I just explained on this slide is a very important point that you should know for an exam. All right. Now look at these words: advantage, difference, matter, question, lack, tax, application, a tax, or my application. What part of speech are these 7 bold words? Well, these bold words are nouns. And sometimes what matters, again, the word that comes before it. We had adjective plus preposition combinations. We also have noun plus preposition combinations. Students took advantage of the low fares. How do I know to put of? Fares doesn't matter. Students took advantage of the teacher. Students took advantage of the textbook. Students took advantage of the free time they had. Students took advantage of the low fares. The difference between 40 and 48 is 8. What's the matter with your cat? I have a question about or on chapter 6. Due to a lack of, I don't even know what's coming next. I don't even know that the word here is interest or people, or it doesn't matter. Due to a lack of, lack forces of. That noun forces of. Many countries have a tax on cigarettes. Why on? No reason except you have to memorize a tax on. Here's my application for the job. So how do you teach these? Well, I would actually have students practice flashcards with this. If I were the teacher, I would actually create a Quizlet quiz for this, where it's basically flashcards, right? And if you're not sure what Quizlet is, then go to Quizlet.com or watch a YouTube video on Quizlet, or ask a question in the discussion group and discussion area. And I'm happy to explain this more. But you need something like flashcards. Now, if you're teaching 3rd grade or 4th grade, what I would do is on my word wall, I would not write a lack as my word on the word wall. I would write a lack of money. Probably a better one would be a lack of time. Due to a lack of time, and then I would maybe underline the word of. Make it pop a little bit. That's what I would do. These are nouns plus prepositions. Now here, what did you dream about last night or of? I'm thinking about changing my major again. I can't go with you. I have to work on my report. Does this book belong to you? No one laughed at his joke. Number 6, well, how would you feel on number 6? You can definitely count on me. How did you know to put on? You just know, because you know it's count on. I don't care if it's me, you, the cat, the dog, good weather. We don't need to know what's coming next. Unlike most prepositions, right? On the table, in June, where the word after matters, right? But the point is, these bold words here: dream, thinking, work, belong, laugh, count, worries, listen. What part of speech are those? Well, you saw we had adjective plus preposition combinations. You saw we had noun plus preposition combinations. We have one more category, and those are verb. These are all verbs. Verb plus preposition combinations. The word belong to someone. That's how you do it. That's how it works every time. All right. You have to memorize it. Every language does this, by the way. This is not unique to English. You might say, well, I learned Spanish. I studied French. French doesn't have that. Spanish doesn't have that because I didn't study that. And that's because, ladies and gentlemen, you stopped after Spanish 1. You stopped at the French level 2. If you had gone to French 3 or 4, the teachers would have taught you this. They didn't teach this to you because it was not appropriate for beginners. No one learns belong to in level 1. When you're learning cat, dog, pencil, paper, my name is Keith, you don't learn the word belong. You don't learn count on somebody. You might learn the 3 things for verbs I always teach are listen to, look at, and wait for. You might want to jot those down. Look at, listen to, and wait for. Those are 3 super high frequency verbs in English that your students are saying, hey, teacher, look me, listen this, or wait me. They're saying that because in their languages, they don't have a preposition, perhaps, or they're using the wrong preposition, all right? So you had 3 kinds of combinations with prepositions: adjective preposition, noun preposition, and verb preposition. And you should understand that concept, and you should be able to give examples of all 3 of those, and not just one little example, 3 of each. That would be great if you could do 9 examples just like that. All right, so in summary, from what you saw in the textbook, there are 2 kinds of preposition. There are some prepositions, the majority, depend on what comes after it. So we have the word box. Well, a book and a box. The book is probably going to be in the box. It could be on the box, but it depends on what's actually happening. This is meaning, whether it's in the box or on the box. The table. Once you hear table and there's a book, you know that's going to be on the table. It can't be in the table. It can be in the drawer if a table has a drawer, but it can't be in the table per se, right? So number 1, most prepositions, the situation depends on the meaning of the preposition, which tells us the word after. Box versus table. So table is a flat surface, that'll be an on. Doesn't matter what's coming before. The envelope is on the table. John stood on the table. The cat is sleeping on the table. I don't care what came before the blank, the preposition, because this preposition on is controlled by table. So the cat is on the table. If I change table to floor, you can say the cat is on the floor. But if I change it to box, then it might be the cat could be on the box, or the cat could be now in the box, right? That word box or table matters. Now, the second category, adjective, verbs, and nouns, sound familiar? Ding, ding, ding. We just studied this, right? So I'm proud of you. I'm proud of. Once you have proud, it triggers of. You, your test, your brother, your brother's test, the cat, I don't care what came after it, which is the exact opposite of the first category, right? Does everybody understand this concept that I'm explaining here? So sometimes in number 1, it's a preposition. That position word really matters. It's a chunk. You don't need to go outside the sentence to know what to put, which preposition to use. But in the second category, we have to go outside of the prepositional phrase to see what's happening, because what comes before it, proud, she excels in math. Why in? Because excel triggers in. All right. The advantage is a noun. The advantage in this plan. No, the advantage of this plan. Advantage triggers of. What comes next doesn't matter. All right. So you can also find some idioms that use prepositions. I won't go through all of these. Your textbook did a very good job of this already. The point is, a lot of idioms have prepositions. So for something such as a fish out of water. Well, explain the preposition. Explain the idiom. What makes it an idiom? You know, well, there's a fish and there's water, but also it's the out of. So a student might, if you focus on the fish and the water in that idiom when you teach it, your students then might start saying a fish from water, a fish to the water, because you didn't focus on every little piece, including the prepositions, matters here in an idiom. I know that the fish in the water is the cool part, the noun and the verb, the colorful words, but please don't underestimate these little prepositions. They're doing a really important job as well, okay? Now, here's something called stranding. You may have heard someone say over the years, don't end a sentence with a preposition. And that's actually false. The rule should say, don't end a sentence with an unnecessary preposition. For example, where do you live and where do you live at? I hear both all the time, but only one is correct English. Where do you live is correct. Where do you work is correct. Where are you? That's correct. But I certainly hear, where do you live at? Where do you work at? Where are you at? This is where we're at now. No, I'll tell you where you're not at. You're not at my whiteboard in any school where I'm hiring teachers because you don't speak proper English. Now, I'm only half joking here, because if you're teaching English grammar, or if you're the English teacher, we're held to a higher standard. We're supposed to know all of this. They expect us to know all this already. But the bottom line is that if you can drop the preposition, where are you at? If you drop it, where are you? Does that still make sense? Where are you? It sure does. If it makes sense, that's because it's already correct. At is an unnecessary preposition. That's the garbage part. The rule should never have been don't end a sentence with a preposition. It should have been don't end a sentence with an unnecessary preposition. So in this case, you're going to hear people say things like, which bus are you waiting for? And people will say, oh, you're ending with the preposition for. What do you want me to say? For which bus are you waiting? Who talks like that? You will have no friends if you talk like that, okay? Which bus are you waiting for? Which movie are you looking at? Which page are you looking at? Which song are you listening to? You most definitely can end a sentence with a preposition. Some verbs require prepositions, and you have, so it's listen to. Please listen, period. But if you're going to say me, it has to be please listen to me. Who are you listening to? What are you listening to? You have to have the TO with the word listen there. So look at these 4 examples. The bus for which we are waiting is late. That's so formal, but it's correct. The bus that we are waiting for is late. That's very common. Number 3, the bus which we are waiting for is late. You can do that also. And number 4, you can also drop the word that in which, in this case, we'll study later on in the book. We'll study, I think it's key 15, I think. I can't remember which one. Sorry, we will study this, when you can drop the word that and which, okay? But the bus we are waiting for is late. So where's the object for for? Now it's interesting, for is a preposition. So in the number 1, for which. Number 2, for that. And number 3, for which. And number 4, it's for and a noun, actually a pronoun, that was dropped. It was dropped because of a reason we'll explain later on. But those are, that number 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 are correct. They really are. Now, look at these 2. Let's combine these. There are many ways of doing this. I just have 3 lines here. The man is the loan officer. We're at a bank. We are waiting for him. So we got there early for an appointment because we're going to see this loan officer because we want to get a loan. So we're dressed up really nicely. We're ready to ask this man, please give us $10,000 to buy a new car. Probably $20,000 or $30,000 to buy a new car now, right? But the man is the loan officer. We are waiting for him. How would you combine those 2 sentences? Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to use and. The man is the loan officer and we're waiting for him. That's level 0. That's poor English. We want to combine this. We want to put one in the other. So one possibility is the man we are waiting for is the loan officer. The man we are waiting for is the loan officer. Let's keep all the words. Let's go from a lot of words to smaller, a longer sentence to a shorter sentence. I'm going to start with the most formal. The most formal would be the man for whom we are waiting is the loan officer. The man for whom we are waiting is the loan officer. If you speak like that, I'll lend you the money. You sound educated. Sound a little over the top, I have to admit, but that's correct English. The man for whom we are waiting is the loan officer. Now in conversation, people won't use the word whom, and they'll say, well, first they'll say the man whom we are waiting for is a loan officer. So most formal, the man for whom we are waiting is the loan officer. Next one, move the for. The man whom we are waiting for, I kept the whom we are waiting for is the loan officer. Go down 1. The man who we are waiting for is the loan officer. Next one, change who to that. The man that we are waiting for is the loan officer. And the next one is just drop it completely. The man we are waiting for is the loan officer. The man we are waiting for is the loan officer. That's actually the most common in conversation, to drop it completely. And that is confusing beyond belief to an ESL student, because most languages don't allow you to just stick in a subject verb in the middle of a sentence like that. You need a that, which, who, whom, or something like that. So we'll get to this later on. Let me show what the answers might look like. And here are some of the examples. All right, I'm not going to read all of these again because I've already gone over those. And there are other possibilities as well. All right, now, you see how you have that for hanging out there in number 2 and number 3? See, number 1, we don't have stranding. This is called stranding. A strand is left hanging out there. Number 1, we don't have stranding. That's very formal English. The man for whom, the man to whom, the man about whom we talked, the problem about which we discussed yesterday is still here. So that's formal English. What is more common is for us to have that preposition hanging out there somewhere, and that's called stranding. So the man, blah, 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 we're waiting for. The for just seems to be out there all on its own, hanging there, a strand. That's called stranding. It is not incorrect English. Now, in formal English, number one is considered really good. And in academic English, people might write like that, but in conversation, people don't do that. The problem is you're going to have students, which you'll study later on, who will produce number one in conversation. That is a problem. Here are some common examples of stranding. You and I are waiting for the bus. I don't know which one's the correct bus. And I say, hey, is the blue bus the one that we're waiting for? Don't end a sentence with a preposition. No, don't end a sentence with an unnecessary preposition. Is this unnecessary? Hey, is the blue bus the one we're waiting for? You need the for. You need it. Which apartments were you looking at? You need at. Which countries is Bolivia surrounded by? Do you know the geography answer to this? Which countries is Bolivia surrounded by? Do you know the answers? Because there are multiple countries. Who or whom is she married to? How much money did you put in? We're at a soft drink machine. You put some money in, and now the machine's broken. Oh my gosh, I lost. So my friend said, I lost my money. Well, oh, how much money did you lose? I don't know. Well, how much money did you put in? I didn't do this before I got here. How much money did you put in? You have to have the word in. What are you listening to? Which chapter is the quiz on? That's such a hard sentence for your students. Your students won't produce this sentence correctly. They're going to say on which chapter. They're going to say which chapter is the quiz. Well, the quiz is not a chapter. The quiz is a quiz. The quiz is on a chapter, about a certain chapter. And what is that movie about? That's a hard sentence to produce, but one that you need if you're going to ask about a book or a movie. All right. Now, let's test yourself. I'm going to give you 3 slides. Be prepared in a moment. I'm going to ask you to stop. Get ready to stop the video after each slide and count, because I'm not going to sit here and wait with you. All right, let's test yourself. You're going to have 3 sentences. You're going to have 3 real sentences, and your job is to count the number of prepositions. Identify them. Ready, guys? Here we go. This is a real sentence I took from the internet. President Obama has told Russia that the United States might not proceed with the missile defense system in Eastern Europe if Iran drops plans for producing nuclear weapons. How many prepositions are there? Stop the video and count the prepositions and identify them, please. Okay, now I'm going to give you the answer. And I will tell you that I'm going to also, because I'm an experienced teacher here, I'm going to write answers that I think you chose that were incorrect answers. Ready, guys? All right. There actually are only 3 here. So might not proceed with a missile defense system, with a system, in Eastern Europe, and then for producing nuclear weapons. Producing nuclear weapons, that action, that's a noun. Producing nuclear weapons is one big noun, all right? And I think you might have chosen 2 others. You might have chosen if is not a preposition, because what comes after if? If Iran drops. Iran is a subject and drops is a verb. A subject verb, that's a clause. Prepositions don't introduce clauses. Prepositions, what did you learn before you got to this class? What phrase did you know? You didn't know noun phrase, verb phrase, but everybody in this class had heard of the expression prepositional phrases. It's called a prepositional phrase because it introduces a phrase. A phrase does not have a subject and a verb. A clause always has a subject and a verb. Prepositions do not introduce subject verbs. All right. Prepositions do not introduce clauses. All right, that's what conjunctions do, if it's a conjunction. And then that is not a preposition, that here is going to be a conjunction. Now, I have an extra question for you. Can somebody tell me why producing has an ing? What do you call, 2 questions, why is that ing there? And another question, which you should know if you've read the chapter, what do you call, what is the grammar word for a verb form that ends in ing that's used as a noun? For example, swimming is fun. I enjoy swimming. Those are nouns. Swimming is fun. That's a subject, swimming. I enjoy swimming. That's your direct object. Those are nouns that came from a verb. They end in ing. Anyone know the word? Starts with a G. It's pronounced gerund, a gerund, G-E-R-U-N-D. In English, if you want to put a verb idea after a preposition, you have to change it into an ing. Because what comes after a preposition? You only have 2 choices in English of the 8 parts of speech. A preposition, as we learned early in this course, is always followed by a noun or a pronoun, because anything a noun can do, a pronoun can do, right? So A noun, you need a noun after a preposition. So since you need a noun and you have a verb, what do? To make that verb a noun, what do? You add an ing. And now you have a verb that ends in ing, which is being used as a noun, such as swimming is fun, or I enjoy swimming, or I'm not interested in swimming with you tomorrow. I'm not interested in going to Publix now. So once you put in plus going, or in plus shopping, or in plus swimming, that word that ends in ing, that's a noun. That's what it is. They came from verbs go, shop, and swim, but they're nouns. So producing here is a gerund, which means it's a noun. A very common student mistake will be drop plans for produce. They'll add no ending. All right. So there are 3 here. Let's try. How'd you do? Thumbs up, thumbs down. All right, let's try one more. Here's example 2. I'm a tennis fanatic. This one's tough. Good luck, everybody. With rising star Andy Murray of the UK breathing down Djokovic's neck for the number 3 ranking, the Serb has plenty of points to defend in the upcoming 4 months if we exclude the Sony Ericsson Open in Miami. All right, stop the video and tell us what your answer is. How many prepositions are there here? This is a tough one. All right, stop the video. Here's the answer. The answer is 7. With Andy Murray of UK, down his neck. I know it's not really down his neck. It's kind of an image here, but it really is down a place, down up the tree. The squirrel ran up the tree and he's breathing down his neck for a ranking of points in months. Which months? The upcoming 4 months. The is an article, upcoming is an adjective, for is an adjective. Those come in for the noun months. In the upcoming 4 months is a prepositional phrase. Now, I think in Miami. So if we have 7 prepositions, how many prepositional phrases do we have? The answer is going to be 7. A preposition always has an object, a noun, and that combination of the preposition plus the noun, or could be a pronoun, like he gave the book to me, he gave the book to Keith, to me, to Keith. Keith is going to be a noun, but to me is going to be a pronoun. That combination is a prepositional phrase. If you have a preposition, you have a prepositional phrase. If you don't have a phrase, if you don't have a noun, you don't have a preposition. All right. So I think some people might have chosen the word to. For example, to defend, line 3, to defend. To defend is not a prepositional phrase. That's an infinitive. To go, to eat, to do, to say, to be, to have. Those are infinitives. That is the preposition to plus the base verb. That chunk is not a prepositional phrase. That is called an infinitive. I want to eat now, to eat. And then if is not a preposition, or if is not a preposition, as we just saw in the previous slide. Let's try one more, guys. Ready? Let's test yourself. How'd you do? 7. That was tough. And usually most people guess 5 or 6. Most people don't guess 7. And when they guess 5 or 6, on top of not having the correct answer, they also include to or if. That's not good. All right. All right. Let's try one more, guys. Oh, that was the last one. All right. So how did you do with that? And yeah, how did you do? And how are you doing with prepositions? I hope it's pretty much okay right now. And if you're not okay with this, I invite you to post to the discussion area. Please let me know what you're thinking, okay? So good luck on the quiz when you take the quiz, but more importantly, I hope you understand the concepts associated with this chapter, okay?